This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime.
We are sort of halfway through 2016, which is turning out to be a very different year from the one that we just had last year. Last year, you picked up the papers, and the headlines invariably were about X gets huge funding, so-and-so is now a unicorn. In fact, I remember when we were doing our shows, we used to get a lot of calls saying, but I'm a unicorn too, and I'm not on the list. And, guys are not putting us on the list. So that was like a constant thing. But the headlines were taken by big money. And from the beginning of the year, we've seen enough to say that there is, while you say that there's enough money out there, Neeru, but there seems to be that you've got to prove that what you're doing with the money, just getting the money isn't enough, and there are enough out there who've had it and have burnt it and have little to show for it. How is money going to be easy this year? Do you not have to worry if you have an idea? What will it take to get hands on the capital?
I think the reality of the situation is that capital is difficult to find right now. I think you need to just recognize that straight off the bat and say that you'll have to look for more innovative solutions to get access to capital. But there is always going to be capital for good businesses. Because when you speak to a lot of the VCs, the guys especially who were doing early stage, last year they got squeezed out of the market because there were hedge funds which were coming in, the kind of price and valuation they were willing to offer for early stage rounds. A traditional VC would never be able to do that. Sure. Their model, their commitment to their LPs is all very different. So in this kind of a market, you have VCs who are actually again being very active because they realize that now they can get businesses at much better valuations, right? And also the expectations, this unicorn myth is getting busted. And I want people to realize that there is a lot which goes into actually building a real unicorn. The valuation unicorns at times that you hear, and there is this example of Thermos as a company, I don't know if people are familiar with this, right? So here is a lady, Elizabeth, who is thought to be a billionaire, right? But when the documents actually come out, the way liquidation preferences and everything else is built into that company, she's actually not even got, $10, $20 million skin in the business. So the unicorn myth is very different from what the reality on the ground is. So people who are trying to raise capital should not focus too much on that, right? They need to focus on the product.
That's a point that I've heard many people make. Yet, when you speak to entrepreneurs, you sort of hear from them. If you underscore, I think they all underscore today that funding is a huge issue. And they seem to be, in my experience, when you sit across them from the table, either saying that, look, there's money out there, get your other stuff sorted, which is going to be make you the lumpy race kagora, as it were. Do that, sort that out, and you'll be okay. And another who says, I've made 100 pitches, I've been to, you name it, I've been there, I've been over and over again, and I just can't do it. So is there a method to the madness?
My take on that would be that, see, as I earlier said, money is just the tool. As important as technology might be for a business, as important that certain hiring might be for a business, money is also a tool which will take you to the next level. In case that becomes the goal, it's a wrong business intention itself. You are not building a sustainable business story. You are only wanting to min some money because you see a lot of, I think it is too much glamour that we have put in fundraising, as you rightly said last year, right? So it's about creating a right business value proposition. And once you do that, whatever amount of money it takes to reach that level will not go in without a lot of passion and energy and hard work and vision. If all of those are not in place, then whatever amount of money you get, it's eventually going to burn out.
Right. And
so
that seems to be happening, right? Yeah. Swati, then all of you seem to be in agreement that money is important. Of course, you need the capital, but it's perhaps don't make it the goal of of yourself, of your team, of your startup. So, if I could ask you, what are the other boxes that entrepreneurs must sort of check when they're sort of trying to build this great company, this great business, and have this great idea? If you just leave funding aside, what are the other, say, top 3 boxes perhaps that they should tick?
Yeah, before that, actually, I just want to add one thing. I've spoken to a lot of VCs. I have some of my friends as well, and I asked them, what has changed for you guys since last year? Why is there so much talk that investors are pulling back their purses? And they all say, look, we have a lot of money still. It's not that we've run out of cash. It's just that we're not putting it as much because I think a lot of the irrational exuberance that had set into the system, that is what has gone. I don't think the total money has walked away. So having said that, apart from funding, I think entrepreneurs obviously need to demonstrate a good team. I also come across a lot of people where, we want to be tech companies, but our tech teams are very small. Not necessarily that one has to be a tech co-founder. A good CTO can also do. So I think the emphasis of teams sometimes is not enough. I also hear a lot of pitches from people who are doing well also, but still the team is not enough. Because investors don't want to put in money if a lot of the business is reliant on the founders itself. I think that management has to be there, that next level of management. Secondly, a focus on unit metrics. I think we've seen the importance of that. Last year, not enough was done on that front. So I think investors are even more so keenly aware of that. And also, I find a lot of investors looking at concentration risks, which is something that, businesses sometimes, we could be a consumer business, but very reliant on concentrated pool of users. And if they go away, or if certain retailers go away, those kind of risks one has to be very careful of. And other than that, obviously, building a good brand, having a good marketing strategy, a connect with the customer. The new in thing is to have a story, right? A brand should tell a story that consumers can connect with.
Right. So make it real, sort of, that always helps. But
yeah, the focus on product, basically.
Sure.
That's important.
Would you have anything to to add to this? Is there anything else that you believe they should sort of focus on? And is there sort of a level that you start first, get your team in place, then move to say something else, or does it work differently for different people?
Yeah, the order that we've adopted, and when we started looking at the opportunity was, is the opportunity large enough? Do we have certain skill sets which will help us succeed in solving that opportunity and the problems in that opportunity better than everyone else around? And then from there, do we have a team to execute on it? So that's typically the way we've gone about thinking through this, right? And then as you grow, obviously the different sets of challenges come up. But initially, at least, you need to make sure you can tick all of those boxes.
We talk about funding, everyone sort of says, she got Ratan Tata. Now that's something you absolutely must ask her, because there's all sort of, given the man, given his persona, there's almost an urban legend. You read articles that say someone sent him an email, he loved the idea so much that it was done on email. Someone says, I know someone personally who said a 5-minute meeting is all it took, because he said, I like what you're saying, I have no idea about the business and how it's going to happen, because I don't understand the space, but I believe in you. But so tell us what that was like.
Well, it was definitely a very memorable experience for both Rohan and I. And, he is a very modest man. I'd say that actually I was really impressed by his understanding of the business. Not that he had any prior briefing. I think just from what we said, he was very astute. He was picking up on various things, asking a lot of questions. He wasn't acting like, look, I'm 80 and you are 30 and this is your generation and cashback and coupons and saving money. I have so much money, I can't relate to this. One would expect all this from him, right? You could say that, okay, maybe it's just the entrepreneur he's looking at. But he wasn't. I thought he totally understood everything that we were trying to do. And so the experience itself was, we met him over lunch. It was like a long conference table. He's sitting on the other side. And everybody else was telling me that you should go out and pitch, in front with the board. And he's having his meal over there. And I thought, no, I can't make eye contact with him then. So I don't want to do that, because this has to be a personal pitch. Otherwise, it's not like he needs my steak. I was more excited than nervous, but a combination of both. So I sat across from him and I actually started my pitch saying, at the end of today, I definitely want a photo with you, because my 94-year-old grandfather has worked in steel as his first career, so he's really excited that I'm here. So he started laughing and he said, you're a smart entrepreneur, because I usually say no to photos, but now that you mentioned your grandfather, I cannot say no. So what helped, I thought, was that, we were able to laugh at the start of it. And I think when you share a laugh with somebody, your conversation is quite positive. Right. So we had his attention, and then I knew that just kind of go for it.
Right. What would you say to someone in these times that we're talking about, where money is a bit of a squeeze? You will need to get a lot of things in place. It's still there, the point that Swati is making. It's not gone away. It's not all walked out of the room. It's still there, but you just may need to work harder to get it. So what do these entrepreneurs working in this space do to not feel disheartened?
One point is that, I've been a part of this IPO process, like in the past few months. So I can't even emphasize enough the number of road shows that I've been to in front of investors, right? So first, don't put a count on it.
Right. Okay.
It won't help. Second, I think there is a lot of people you can choose as mentors. So the industry has changed to an extent that in case you have a good business idea, even though you are not seeking an investment from somebody who knows this space, he wants to help. The startup ecosystem is now well accepted in this industry. So people are willing to help. So choose right mentors for your business who can help you prepare the pitch right. Right? Now these mentors, what you do is you end up doing a lot of dry runs and those might be repetitive. You practice your pitch so hard and so well that all the questions that could potentially come any which ways have come in front of you.
Right. So you've done your homework.
You've done your homework really, really well, and you've practiced those pitches in front of the right mentors. There are a lot of incubation programs. I mean, when we started in India, there were no incubation programs. Right now, there are so many where you can go, you can pitch. There's so many investors you could connect to with offline. Even though not as an investor, if they don't even want to invest right now, they'll give you the right guidance. They'll tell you what are the basic flaws they could identify in your business so that you could rework on your pitches again and again.
Right.
And then practice them.
Right.
Practicing the pitching is like, I mean, it has to be a mugged up story that you can actually wake up and speak the whole of it.
I would imagine with just that right touch of, to just get it right, that I'm just, figuring it out as I go along. But yes, I see the point that you're making. And she's talking about IPO. What's the sort of experience on the road to NASDAQ been like?
So
that
just,
was
I
the
think-
big thing that we wanted him to say, but he's not saying it, so.
One comment just related to that actually is also that in a time like this, you need to be willing to look at more creative solutions. And I think we are a classic example of that, right? We've explored public markets earlier. It's no secret we had explored public markets in 2012, and then Kingfisher collapsed, and the industry actually went through a very turbulent period. But this time around, the markets are still tough. They're very volatile. We could have, if we had blinkers on, we would have said, okay, the traditional IPO is the only route. But then we started exploring other markets outside India, and we realized that there are products like SPACs which are out there. And you can do mergers, you can do reverse mergers, you can merge into them, they can merge into you. All these kind of creative solutions are also out there to go public. And when times are difficult, I think you need to look outside the box. Right? There was one of the pitch which was there, and this is just feedback to the person who was doing Easy Dhan. The size of the market does not seem that large to me. Right? You're talking about $16 billion a year, you're talking about 75 basis points, that's whatever, $80-90 million of total revenue in the industry. It's not going to get a VC excited, but it's definitely something which a lot of strategic investors would look at. So if I'm a mobile operator, it sounds like a nice fit to be within my business, right? So I think that's the kind of approach you will have to take. You'll have to move beyond the traditional sources of capital in a market like this and look at other solutions as well.
Right. Another important point that, of course, that don't put all your eggs in one basket, sort of, look at other options, look at other ideas. But do you believe that we are sort of, we are there, we are sort of mature enough in a space where people are open to this, or do you sort of fumble, stumble, and then come to this realization on your own? How does it really sort of work?
That's where the importance of looking at precedents comes through. I found that even in our investor pitches, the fact that we could point out that there are billion-dollar cashback businesses in the US, in China, it gave investors confidence. And it also sometimes gives you guidance as well to see, okay, why not look at how our model will behave in a mature economy? And like you said, we are in a state of evolution, but there are other economies in the world that have already done what we are doing. So there are a lot of lessons to be learned from that. I think what happens sometimes is that, we initially do research on an idea and we think, this is a good idea because I have a problem. And then we get so deep into trying to do it that we never really step out and think again on why are we doing this? How have others done it? What kind of strategies do they do it? And sometimes I feel that when I do that, I always get new ideas. So last year I went to Silicon Valley for this Google program. I was representing India on Black Box, and they had one entrepreneur from every country. And I think doing some of that sort of stuff sometimes, although I had to take out a week out from work, and sometimes a week, you can't take it out, but when you do it, you learn. And there were pitching classes. That's when I learned for the first time that actually, if you learn to pitch, half your work is done. And how to get it right. So I think there are various small things that we ignore because we're always running after my business needs this and the next email that needs to be answered or something. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, then sometimes we need to try out a lot of different stuff.
Right. You need to keep these, obviously, things consciously in mind, that, I need to sort of step back, perhaps, because the point is also that sometimes you're just so close to your idea, just so much of your baby, it's taken so much time, blood, sweat, tears, that you can't do that. So how do you really pull yourself back? And at what point do you really do that? Because there are lots of people who say, I tried the idea on my mother, my sister, my brother, they all said, fantastic, go for it. And here I am.
You know what? I have a funny story around that because when I moved back from Amazon and I told my mom that I'm moving back to India, I was expecting she would be like super excited. Wow, my daughter is coming back. And she said, then what are you supposed to do when you come here? So I told her that we're going to start this retail business like that. So she was like, "तो $1 million की job छोड़ के India आके सामान बेचोगी?" And I was like, wow, that's a very different take on the retail business, but that's what you're supposed to do. But then I told her that I know the business formula, it works, and let me try this out. So I never got support from my mom. I mean, she hated it.
I think that's sort of convincing your moms is a big problem, because you were speaking to Richa Kar of Zivame recently, who said that when she wanted to quit her very high-profile jobs, reasonably high-profile jobs, and start Zivame, her mother said, what will I tell my friends? You're selling underclothes on the computer. There's no way I can do that.